Grad Stream Rapid App Development, where we're talking about all the things that go into testing a new business idea, development, finding users, all of the roadblocks that come with that kind of stuff. So, Bubble recently retweeted or posted not tweeted, they posted a link on LinkedIn to a article that I wanted to take a look at. 10 reasons why I use bubble.io to iterate on startup ideas. Let's take a look at this. And I want to see, this was actually written back in 2021. So just about a year ago. So I want to see if even the stuff that is in here still holds up. I feel like a lot's changed in the last year. Not the big stuff, not the fundamentals, and not, I think there's still a lot of reasons to use Bubble to iterate on new business ideas. But I'm curious to see this person's perspective on why they use Bubble for startup ideas. JP Vertil. Not sure that I know this person. All right, so why you shouldn't have to onboard a technical co-founder just to test a business idea. Now, I did go down the technical co-founder route before I had found Bubble or any of the no-code stuff. I want to say in 2017, 2018, and it was a struggle for a lot of different reasons. The main one being is that the high demand for people with technical skills. They're even companies that have high paying salaries are going to have a hard time hanging on to these people because they're just they're being hit up by recruiters 5 times a day to jump ship, right? So what chance do I have as with a technical idea with no technical background and I can't pay you anything? What chance do I have of attracting that person to work on my idea with me? It's slim to none. I think the only thing that possibly could get a technical person interested in joining in working on you with your idea is the amount of traction that you've built up until that point. So if you say, like, if you go to a technical person, right? So say a software engineer, and you say, hey, I got this great idea for a new app where I can rate movies. And they're going to say, okay, that's cool. But, like, how is that different from any of the other stuff that you have out there? Now, compare that with, hey, I have this new app that rates movies and we have 100,000 users already, or 50,000 users, or even 100 users, right? Even that is more compelling than just saying, I have an idea. Take this big giant chance with you to see if this works out. So it's really hard to get somebody interested in your idea if you have zero traction on it yet. All right. Bubble is a no-code platform that enables you to build web apps. Here's my simple definition of a no-code platform. A platform that allows you to build an interactive web app through a drag-and-drop user interface and easy-to-implement logic. Already, I'm not liking the word easy here. Working on a no-code platform is almost like writing in plain English. It is using English. It's in English, but it's not as easy as, like, you have to be a little bit more logical than you would be in everyday speech, right? Greater than, equal to, current users. Like, nobody talks like that. So I wouldn't call it plain English. I'd call it like machine English, if you will. Like, it's definitely not. So if I talk to somebody in bubble language, it would sound ridiculous. They wouldn't know what I'm talking about. There are a number of no-code platforms out there, but I started using Bubble last year and have built several projects on it, including the MVP of my startup, Gaia. Platform enabling people in close-knit communities to share their cars with each other. Cool. Good idea. Car sharing. My co-founder, Carl Ziade, and I launched Gaia at Stanford in September of this year. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. Here are the 10 reasons why I use Bubble. It's easy to learn. It's easy to learn. Oh, you're killing me with this. The first thing here, and I already disagree. Let's see if he elaborates a little bit, though. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. As you sign up to use Bubble for the first time, you have the option to go through some of the onboarding tutorials to get familiar with the platform and get going immediately. You will quickly be able to build an interactive platform. That is not true. It may take some time to get super comfortable with the more advanced features, but you'll be surprised by how quickly you can get started. That is true. I agree with this. You'll be surprised by how quickly you can get started. Getting started is very different from building something functional and useful. Takeaway, Bubble is easy to learn even if you don't have a technical background. Wrong. Though it might take some time to become great at it. All right, so there's a few things here that I agree with and disagree with. The definitely you will be able to build and quickly build an interactive platform, but what does it do? Right? Like when you say interactive, that could mean anything as simple as a website navigating from one page to another to running advanced math calculations using an integrated endpoint, right? It runs the gamut here. So interactive, I think, is a little vague here. I think it's misleading to say that Bubble is easy to learn, and I think Bubble themselves, not even just Bubble, but the expectation that you set by saying learning something is easy is the effect of that is that when it's not easy and that expectation is not met, they're going to drop off, right? Like if you say somebody it's going to take you 2 hours to learn Bubble, fine, 2 hours to learn Bubble. But if you say it's going to take you 2 hours to rebuild Amazon, that's not what's going to happen. And I'm aware that that's not what they're saying here, and that's not what Bubble or No Code puts out in their messaging. But when you say it's going to take you 2 hours to learn, people interpret that as, oh, the platform that I'm building that I have in my head is only going to take 2 hours, and that sets up the wrong expectations for people who are trying to learn the platform, and also to people who are non-technical who are going to hire a developer to build for them. Agencies. I think my screen froze. Oh no, that sucks. Hang on one second. Be right back. Coming back. My screen froze. There it is. Okay, it's back. All right. So easy to learn. It is definitely what I do agree with in this section is that it's easy to get started, and I think it's easier than anything useful that you could produce as far as software goes. It doesn't get much easier than, I don't even want to say like Bubble maybe, but like just no code in general in terms of building something that building a software solution that solves somebody's problem. Yes, I do agree it's easy to get started, but to build something functional and to really like get to the degree where you understand the problem that you're solving for people, that is not easy, right? So again, it's easier. Maybe how I would have reworded this, where it's not, like it may be easier than code is accurate, and or like easy to get started would be the top line header here. That's what I would have done differently. Fast deployment. Let's move on. Fast deployment. Bubble allows you to deploy your web app in seconds. You may choose to connect with your personal domain, just like you would if you were using website builders such as Wix, WordPress, and Squarespace. Traditional web development requires you to host your server outside of where the code resides. So you end up using platforms like AWS or Heroku, which not only require additional setup, but also add additional cost to your project. True. That's very true in that Bubble handles that for you. It's still on AWS. Your app lives on AWS, but Bubble is kind of handling that setup, that cost, and that instance for you. So you don't even have to think about it. Takeaway, you can launch your web app on Bubble way faster than you ever could with traditional programming. That's very true. Not only is it simpler to to launch it, but it's also simpler to implement and iterate changes, right? It's very easy to push those live. I always love to talk about how if you are on the the app stores and you want to deploy changes to your application, traditionally you would have need to upload a new version to the app store, which you have to jump through a few hoops to do that, especially with Apple. But when you have your Bubble app on the app store, as soon as you deploy any changes, those automatically sync with all of the devices that your app is installed on instantly, right? So they're just going to see an automatic new version of the app. So yes, definitely faster deployment, and I would probably just add to this section faster iteration, faster deployment of changes. So yeah, this is a huge advantage. I agree with everything here. Fast release updates. Okay, already. I got ahead of myself there. When you make changes to your Bubble app, you can publish your changes instantaneously with a click of a button. No need to restart any server or rerun Docker containers. It sounds like JP has a programming background because he's comparing Bubble to the traditional way that this would have been done. So I'm glad to see that if my assumption is correct, that somebody who can code is choosing Bubble because they're finding advantages to it. So I'm always excited to see that because it really validates the usefulness of the platform. It's such a nice feeling to be able to get back with someone who reported a bug and let them know that it's fixed within a few minutes of the bug being reported. Yeah, huge advantage. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Not just changes to new features that you want to make, but when things are broken, things don't work the way that you wanted to. It's very difficult to find all of the bugs in quality assurance in QA before you launch. Your users will find bugs and they'll have edge cases that are always going to be like you'll never be able to find on your own because you've just been thinking about how you would use the app so narrowly, and people have other ideas about what they're seeing on the screen. So yeah, being able to report, I find that to be a huge advantage. Being able to fix bugs like as they're reported, I don't think it could be much easier than the tools that Bubble gives you. If you make an update on your Bubble app, you can publish it immediately. Yes. Integrated database. Ooh, a touchy topic. Though you can use an external database, Bubble has a built-in relational database that you can use from the get-go. This is also a major time saver. It's also true that not all of the no-code tools have an integrated database, and I think that's something we should be grateful for, or that we take for granted, I would say, as bubblers, is that there's a built-in relational database. You don't have to connect to an external source. Retool, for example, doesn't have a backend. I don't think that Flutterflow does either. They don't have a backend, or built-in backend, I should say. You need to connect to a third party, which again requires a connection. It requires more setup. So the fact that the Bubble database is completely integrated with basic user functionality, login, sign up, built into a workflow already for you, that saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of time from having to build that from scratch. So yes, absolutely. That is a huge advantage, an integrated database. The cherry on top is that making queries on the Bubble database is straightforward, easy to learn, and they're clear, plain English phrases that anyone can understand. Yes, I think I agree with this. I think I agree that the do a search for is pretty intuitive. Like if you're doing basic CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete, creating data, that is pretty clear in the data tab, or rather in the data action of the workflow tab. Reading, update, and delete. Yeah, I would say that I think I agree with this. I think that again, just a clarifying thing would be like the basic CRUD operations are easy to learn. You can also get into backend workflows and server-side actions. It gets quite complicated, but that's not really what I think the intention is here. So yeah, I agree with this, JP. Bubble gives you access to a database that is user-friendly and allows you to save development time. Sure. All right, number 5, mobile app conversion. It's possible to convert your Bubble web app into a mobile app. All you need to do is use a converter platform like ZeroCode/Native or Narrator.io. I've never used those. After giving them access to your Bubble project, they will create a build of your app either on iOS or Android. 2021. That's right. That's probably why he's not mentioning BDK here, is because BDK wasn't as popular in 2021. Actually, BDK 2021 is when we put out the first tutorials on how to convert your Bubble app to an Android SDK or Apple, whatever they call it, Android package kit. I forget what it is. But we put those tutorials out in 2021 before we found or knew about BDK. I think it was out, but it really just like they weren't doing a whole lot of advertising on it. And then, now, of course, I would never do it myself again. BDK has just figured out so many of the native features that you would want on mobile, like accessing the camera and stuff. And that's just something that I don't want to spend the time in Android Studio or Xcode to learn. So yes, these services definitely make it easier to do mobile app conversions. And I will say that if you're going mobile native, Flutterflow is probably going to be an easier path. They may not have as much functionality as Bubble does or customizability, but they definitely make it easier to deploy onto the app stores from Flutterflow. It's pretty made for that. So I think if you are considering mobile native and it's going to be a mobile only platform, Flutterflow is probably going to be your best bet. As before, the power bubble comes in when you need to make updates to your app. The changes will still be instantaneous. No need to, he called this out here. I'm really impressed. Yes, nice. No need to publish a new version of the app on the App Store or Play Store. No need to request your users to download a new version of the app. Yeah, exactly. I love the way he said this. No need to request users to download a new version of the app, or this app needs updates and then you have to download install the most recent version of it. Yeah, it's like there's no to your user. If you deploy changes while they're actively using the app, you will see the little black banner across the top saying, hey, you're not using the current version. Click here to refresh. But that's it. That's all they have to do. And, if they're in the middle of a session doing something, again, they may lose the data that's being stored locally, like client side on their device. But it's not an install process, right? It's just basically going to refresh the page and then they'll be on the most updated version. So hopefully whatever they're doing, didn't involve too much effort, because I guess that could be frustrating. But again, light years away, or light years easier than having to upload a new version and then telling people to download it. Takeaway: there are third-party platforms that allow you to convert your Bubble web app into a mobile app that people can download from the App Store or Google Play. Yes, very true. All right, number 6, built-in authentication. If you're building an app requiring users to have their own accounts, Bubble can handle the full authentication process for you. Bubble can handle all of the following flows: creating an account and password, user login, user logout. Yep, all things that I even called out before. And handling forgotten passwords. Additionally, Bubble easily integrates with platforms like Google, Facebook, and Twitter. Yes, it does. Bubble can handle authentication for you, so to focus on the more relevant parts of your app. Yeah, I agree that Bubble has made that part so much easier, right? Basic login, forgot password. You don't really have, yes, you do need to add that to your workflow, but it's really like a step or two. It doesn't take more than a few minutes to add reasonable. I think where it gets a little bit, involved is like password strength, and the process for setting a password policy. That's a little bit of effort. But just think about creating an account and what that would involve with code, creating an account, setting up the inputs, validating whether it's a valid email. That's a lot of code, right? And this is pretty standard across all modern web applications that you're going to need a login system. So the fact that Bubble does this all for you, I think is, taken for granted quite a bit. Even by myself included, there's a lot that Bubble does that I think I just take for granted because I grew up on Bubble, and this is what I understand web development to be. which, there's a lot more. Somebody who's coming in with an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript background, they're going to be like, whoa, no, this is not the standard. Like, we have to build all this stuff from scratch. So yeah, a little appreciation there. I appreciate that. As far as built-in authentication, yeah, there are like single sign-on plugins that you can use for Google and Twitter, and you can authenticate with your social media. Bubble does make those pretty easy. So a lot of single sign-on stuff that you can do. I guess the only thing that I would say that kind of like gives me a little bit of thought is like, what if you don't want people to have an account? Right? What if you don't want people to sign up, but you still want them to natively or be able to access certain parts of the application based on maybe some response that they've put in? Yes, I suppose you can do that conditionally, but I have just never. I wonder what kind of use case that would make sense for, right? Like people being able to access your account, access the app, and having different experiences, but they're not signed in. Right? And how can you store information about them? Can you? Is it even possible? Am I just talking out of my ass? Maybe. I feel like there's a few different ways of, non-authenticating apps, like what that experience would look like. I don't know. I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm not really sure what I'm even asking for, but I just think that that's something that I've thought about. Never had an actual use case for, but I'm sure somebody does. A wealth of plugins plus API connection possibility. Ooh, my favorite area. One of Bubble's superpowers is its wealth of plugins connecting to external services, including Stripe, Zapier, SendGrid. My go-to place for Bubble plugins has been ZeroCode. I love ZeroCode. I do love ZeroCode, as they have good documentation. That is true. They do have good documentation. If you find the plugins limiting to your needs and would rather do raw API integrations, Bubble allows you to do that as well. Takeaway, Bubble has many plugins and offers API integrations so that you can have your Bubble app easily communicate with third parties. I think, in my opinion, this is probably the strongest thing that Bubble offers. The ability to integrate with third parties and the community of people that are actively building solutions for Bubble developers. Pricewell.io being one of them for setting up subscription Stripe payments. That's one thing that's not out of the box easy in Bubble, is to create a subscription system, right? So that gets charged every month. Now, it may sound simple for a subscription payment system. It's just kind of a recurring workflow, right? You can charge somebody at the end of the month, but getting those credit card details in, being able to update credit card details. Yes, Stripe handles a lot of that logic for you, the Stripe plugin, but also like what happens when a credit card gets declined? You then have to set up different states for like status. Is this account suspended? Is this do we want to do 3 attempts before we suspend the account? What kind of access? What happens after the person's account is suspended? There's logic to build there. It's not out of the box, right? And again, Bubble makes all this stuff easier, of course. But then companies like Pricewell are going above and beyond that and saying, hey, just use our system and we're going to manage all that for you. You don't have to build any backend workflows to manage a subscription payment. And the strength of that, like the community of people that are willing to do that, I think is really where Bubble stands out as compared to the other options that you would have here. I don't see that strong of a ecosystem with around any other platform. Maybe because Bubble was very early to the game, but even not, because even Airtable and Zapier, they have strong communities, but I just don't hear as much of like third parties going above and beyond to do things like that on Zapier. It seems like, like Zapier has to put out the updates. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I guess I would look to like Olivia Look on Twitter and ask her, because she's very involved in the Zapier community. I'd love to get her take on that. Or someone like Jared Gibb for the Xano side of that. Because I posted a question on the Xano community like last week, and I have not gotten any response. I don't even think anyone's seen it. No, actually, it did say it got 10 views, but If I posted this question on Twitter, it would have been answered in very fast. Probably in the Bubble community as well would have gotten a faster response. So definitely the community, which leads into the next point: supportive developer community. The worst thing that can happen, actually, just going back to that point just a bit, I think the other thing that the fact that Bubble chose to make the platform so integratable and so, you know, almost feel like open source without degrading the integrity of the platform, I think is the reason that it is so successful, because it's third parties and people who want to see different functionality can just build that using plugins with, of course, a coding effort involved, but it's available if you really want to do it. It's just how much effort do you want to put in? But that to me does stand out as, I don't like using the word superpower, but yes, a superpower as compared to other platforms in this space. Number 8, supportive developer community. The worst thing that can happen when building a web platform is getting stuck with no one to help you. Yeah, that's true. Bubble has a vibrant developer community that can help you with your technical issues. Most of the technical hiccups I've faced have actually been solved with a quick Google search. Most times, someone has already faced the issue and another person has already provided the solution. Takeaway: Bubble has a vibrant developer community that helps you get unstuck quickly in times of need. Think of this stream in itself, right? Not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty much here I bring people on all the time that have a technical problem that they've asked my opinion on, and then just kind of ask them, like, do you want to just do this on a live stream so maybe somebody else can, take the advantage from that? And most more times than not, they are willing. But yeah, I'm pretty much like, the original purpose of this stream, and I'm still open to this, is just to kind of like work through problems live as a group, as opposed to feeling like you're just on your own trying to solve problems, because that is a shitty feeling when you just feel like you're stuck and like no one knows the answer to your question. So that's really why I started doing this stream in the first place. Well, actually, kind of maybe that was like the second iteration of it. I've gone through a few changes to the format of this stream. But yeah, I mean, anytime somebody has a Bubble question, I would want them to throw it in the chat. And if I can't answer it just through words, then I would probably bring them on here and try to work through them. And there's a lot of other people like me that are doing that. Again, I know that if I post on Twitter, if I post a question on Twitter, like, I'll have an answer, at least like an avenue to go down within, probably like less than an hour. Like, somebody will respond something and say, hey, John, did you think about this? And it's not, and I think it's important too to remember that it's not up to the people that are helping you to solve your problem, right? Like, you shouldn't expect the answer to your problem directly if you're putting a question on the Bubble forum or the Xano community or the Twitter. It's just like, give me something to work with. I've been thinking about this problem in a very narrow way, and I'm stuck. I don't know which direction to go in. Someone like knock me into a different direction. Like that's all I ask for. And that's kind of what you should expect too if you're putting a question out there. It's like, don't expect anyone to do the work for you. You're still gonna have to do it, but at least they can give you a path to go down. But even a lot of times they will have the answer, especially in the Bubble forum. I would say probably the most. It's like, yeah, somebody actually works through that problem with you, for basically for nothing, just to kind of give back to the community. There's no incentive structure in place right now. I know they're working on that, but it's pretty amazing that people are willing to just donate their time like that to help somebody else who's struggling with a technical problem. Because we've all been there, right? That's the only thing that I can come up with. We've all been there, and it sucks feeling stuck, and you don't want people to get frustrated and quit. All right. Growing developer community. Today, it's easy to find. This seems very similar to the last one. Today, it's easy to find Bubble developers on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr. This is a positive sign for anyone trying to build a substantial project on the platform. It's comforting to know that there are developers who could provide direct support or build on passcode in times of need. There's a takeaway. There's a growing community of Bubble developers on Bubble who can be hired. Yeah, so getting into kind of the freelancing and agency work is probably You'll probably find more Bubble developers than Airtable developers, I would say, or like Xano developers. You'll probably be able to find somebody who will build for you. Of course, the question there is the quality of the work, the reliability of the developer is the problem with any development team that you hire, of course. But it's I think that's probably the next level of things, is being able to validate whether or not this person has a true proven track record, and will they stick with you through the when you hit development roadblocks. So that's probably the next level to this. How do you measure that? But certainly they're out there. People are selling their time for to work on Bubble projects. All right, then the last one here. Built-in version control. As you develop with Bubble, it's possible to save your app at different points in time. Ooh, save points. Yeah. I don't see enough people talking about save points and the importance of save points. And you can revert to any previously saved version. This is handy in situations where you had a functioning feature, saved it, and then did some edits that mess things up. Very true. With Bubble, you can quickly revert to the original working version. It's not as sophisticated as GitHub, where you can have multiple people working in several branches, but it does come in handy. Yeah, Bubble's currently revamping the version control. You can create different versions of the app and branch them so that multiple people are working on different versions simultaneously, but the merge is a little tricky. There's some work to be done there. But Bubble has said quite a few times already that they're working on this. They're probably going to release it, I would imagine, in the next few months. So that'll be interesting. I know people who are working with a team of 6 Bubble developers on the same app at the same time, which was insane to me. Like I never thought we'd see that. It's like, again, I've started working in Bubble in 2017, and Bubble developer wasn't even really no one called themselves that back then. And now to see there's companies that are hiring teams of Bubble developers that can simultaneously work on a Bubble app, it's pretty amazing to see. I love seeing that. Bubble helps you save different versions of your app, and you can revert to any previously saved version. Though I find Bubble to be powerful, here are some limitations I've experienced. Ooh, here we go. A little bonus here. I didn't know that they had the limitations in here as well. Handling mobile responsiveness. If you're building a web app with a relatively simple user interface, you can make it mobile responsive on Bubble, but in situations where there are many elements on a page, it becomes trickier, and it's sometimes best to make an entire new design for mobile view. Yes, that is true. Now, this is 2021, so this is pre-responsive CSS Flexbox. I'm not going to call it the new responsive engine anymore because it's not new. We need to stop saying the new responsive engine. It's like pre and post CSS Flexbox, I guess. But this article was written pre-CSS or pre-Flexbox, and that's why he's probably calling it out here, which was true. It was very difficult to make a responsive page. If you used Gregory John's guides on the page structure, that did get easier, but it was still a lot of work, right? Let's be honest, it's a lot of work. Now it's definitely easier. I actually still think though that it's better to build the mobile version of your application on a different page, even though it is easier now. I just find that setting up all of that conditional logic, as opposed to hide and display elements and functionality and things you can do on mobile and things you can't do, doing that conditionally is so much more work than doing 2 separate pages. And why not? Like what do you lose by putting the mobile version of this on a separate page? Nothing that I can see. So I still think, even though it is easier to build responsive pages now, I still think it's a best practice to build desktop version and mobile version on a separate page. I'd like to hear someone's opinion on that disagrees with that. I'd like to see what their reasoning is. Handling height responsiveness. Bubble does not excel in dynamic height responsiveness. Again, pre-Flexbox. So I don't think this holds up anymore. In some situations, you may want to control the height of an element picture, what Bubble calls a repeating group, based on height of the device screen being by your user. While you can control element width conditionally, it's not the case for element height. Not true as of the new release. The release of the new responsive engine. There, I freaking said it. I'm a hypocrite. Not true as of that point, but yes, that certainly was true. There was no dynamic height. There was no way to adjust elements' heights dynamically on the old responsive engine. I can still say old responsive engine. I think that makes sense. All right, working with collaborators. Bubble does not do well when multiple collaborators are working on a project simultaneously. When editing the project at the same time as a collaborator, I found that some of my work reverting to older versions. The best practice seems to be working on the app one person at a time. Yes, unfortunately, that is still true. Again, they're working on this, but yes, I agree that it is at the moment. It's still best to kind of be working one at a time, unless you have some kind of very robust system for making changes, merging changes, and you're being very mindful of that. But just like three people randomly, like kind of working on the app at the same time in different versions, yeah, there's going to be some overlap and issues, and things kind of get confused. All right, wrapping it up here. Overall, I give Bubble 2 thumbs up, given the practicality, speed, and cost savings it offers compared to traditionally programming. I especially encourage you to try it out if you're building an MVP of a business idea. You'll be shocked by how fast you can get going, and even more shocked by how fast you can edit your app and do iterations. Very cool. Shout out to JP Vertil. I think most of this still holds up. The only parts that I disagree with is, like I pointed out here, I don't think we should be telling people that it's easy to learn. There is quite an effort to learn Bubble, but it is easy to get started, which he calls out here. So I'm good with this. And all of the and these I think are more related. These two, I would say, not wrong for the time that he wrote it. But it's definitely changed. This has changed quite a bit since the release of the CSS Flexbox responsive engine. But good article overall. Like I appreciate that he wrote this. All right, so that's all I have for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Jump in, bring some problems if you have it. Drop something in the comments. Let's get a conversation going around Bubble or app development or finding users. All right, I'll catch you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, the Rat Stream. Thank you.